Alcaraz's ultimate attack on Nadal. Carlos Alcaraz continues to make a statement in world tennis. At just 22 years and 3 months old, he already has 8 Masters 1000 titles, a record that until now only Rafael Nadal had achieved at that age. The Balearic even did it a little earlier, at 20 years and 10 months, but the truth is that neither Djokovic nor Federer managed to get close to that figure when they were the age of the Mercian. This fact speaks for itself. Alcaraz is on the path of the greatest, and his ability to adapt to any tournament, surface, and rival shows that this is not a passing streak, but a consolidated talent. Every final he plays seems to confirm it. He is made for the big stages and for continuing to write historic pages. The victory in Cincinnati had double value. It was not only another title in his record, but also confirmation that he can remain consistent at the highest level. In such a competitive circuit, where the best in the world fight for every point, reaching 8 Masters 1000 titles at such a young age reflects a career that promises much more. Rafael Nadal, with his spectacular start in tennis, is still the only one who surpassed that mark earlier than him. The comparison is inevitable, especially because they not only share nationality but also grit, competitive character, and that feeling of never giving up on the court. Alcaraz's attack on Nadal's records is both a tribute and a threat. But beyond the numbers, what truly excites fans is the feeling of witnessing the birth of a new era. Nadal opened a unique path, and now Alcaraz is walking it firmly, making it clear that he wants to be the natural heir of the Balearic and, why not, even surpass his feats. These kinds of comparisons spark passionate debates. Will Alcaraz be able to reach Nadal's 36 Masters 1000 crowns or even Djokovic's 40? Nobody knows yet, but the truth is that he is already competing in that same league and, at just 22 years old, time plays in his favor. The historical ranking of Masters 1000 titles puts Alcaraz's achievements into perspective. Novak Djokovic leads with 40, Nadal follows with 36, and Federer retired with 28. Behind appear other legendary names such as Agassi, Murray, or Sampras, but all of them are far behind what the Mercian has already achieved. With only 8 trophies of this category, he already belongs to a club reserved for the greatest. The big difference is that Alcaraz still has his entire career ahead of him. At his age, Nadal was already a consolidated phenomenon, but Djokovic and Federer were still far from their best numbers. That means that if the Mercian maintains this progression, he has a real chance of getting close to those records that once seemed untouchable. However, challenges still remain. Although he has conquered almost all the important Masters 1000, 2 still elude him, Shanghai and Paris-Bercy. Curiously, they are the same ones Nadal never managed to win throughout his career. The Balearic played finals there, but fell just short against rivals such as Federer, Nalbandian, or Davydenko. Alcaraz, on the other hand, still has time to check off those boxes and break another barrier that even his idol could not surpass. If he manages to lift those titles, not only will he expand his record, but he will also reinforce the feeling that he is destined to mark a different era in world tennis. The present is already impressive, but the future promises even more. Every tournament Alcaraz plays attracts the attention of millions of fans who want to see if he continues adding chapters to his legend. And although surpassing Nadal and Djokovic seems almost impossible, the truth is that with every title, the gap narrows. Thus, what some call Alcaraz's attack on Nadal is nothing more than the natural evolution of a sport in constant motion. A generational change that excites tennis fans and turns every match into a spectacle of living history. Carlos Alcaraz has surprised the tennis world with his 8th Masters 1000, an achievement that places him on Nadal's path and makes him the second youngest player in history to reach that figure. Although he is still far from the Balearic's 36 titles, the feeling is clear: the Mercian is attacking the records with strength and does not plan to stop. What is exciting is that fans are lucky to be living this historic moment. Seeing Nadal and Djokovic remain as legends while a young man like Alcaraz begins to write his own era is a gift for tennis. The attack has begun, and the future promises to be thrilling. The most talked about doubles pair at the US Open debuted with smiles, jokes, and complicity. Emma Raducanu and Carlos Alcaraz faced Jack Draper and Jessica Pegula in the first round of the mixed doubles tournament. The result was not favorable, but the chemistry between them drew so much attention that the scoreboard almost became secondary for the spectators. During the match, Raducanu and Alcaraz were seen enjoying the experience, laughing between points and cheering each other on. For many, it was a refreshing sight in the circuit, a more fun side of tennis that is not always seen in high-pressure competitions like a Grand Slam. After the match, social media began to fill with fan comments. Some lamented the loss, while others highlighted how well they understood each other on the court. There were even jokes about what could be a future partnership both in sports and personally. A day later, Raducanu decided to share her experience on Instagram. She posted several photos of the match, where both appeared smiling and in good spirits. She accompanied the carousel with a message dedicated to Alcaraz in which she wrote, "Crazy. Thanks, partner." A simple detail, but one that quickly went viral. The post showed Emma with a cheerful attitude, grateful for the opportunity to have shared the court with one of the best in the world. The fact that she highlighted the fun above the result made it clear that for her it had been an unforgettable experience. The message did not go unnoticed and soon received thousands of reactions. Followers of both began to speculate about the good chemistry between them, further fueling the rumors that have been circulating for some time about the relationship between the two young tennis players. Carlos Alcaraz's response did not take long and was what ultimately set social media alight. The Mercian wrote in the comments, "I'm still waiting for those words in Spanish." With that phrase, he teased his partner, showing that their connection goes beyond the court. But it didn't stop there. Alcaraz added a "thank you" full of closeness. "Thanks to you, partner." Words that consolidated the feeling of complicity between them and quickly became a topic of conversation among their followers. The comment went viral and many interpreted it as a very special gesture of friendship. The interaction between Raducanu and Alcaraz became one of the most talked about moments of the tournament, even beyond the sporting results. For fans, it was a glimpse of the human side of tennis, two young people enjoying, sharing, and showing that they also know how to laugh and have fun in the middle of competitive pressure. Although Raducanu had already made it clear at Wimbledon that there is only friendship between her and Alcaraz, fans could not resist giving flight to the rumors. The naturalness with which they communicated on social media only fueled the imagination of those who dream of seeing them together, whether as court partners or something more personal. Beyond what may or may not exist between them, the truth is that both Emma and Carlos made it clear that they have a close and sincere relationship. And that trust was noticeable on the court, where, despite the loss, they conveyed a good vibe and brought smiles to the audience. Now, each one refocuses on their individual paths at the US Open. Raducanu seeks to recover the level that led her to win the tournament in 2021, while Alcaraz dreams of repeating the 2022 feat and lifting the trophy again in New York. But what they already achieved together was leaving a fun and unexpected memory. Carlos Alcaraz and his path to number one after the US Open. He defends quarterfinals in Shanghai, third round in Paris-Bercy, and group stage at the ATP Finals, while Sinner would be forced to revalidate several titles. Carlos Alcaraz is going through a great moment on the circuit. Last Monday he was crowned champion of the Masters 1000 in Cincinnati, adding his 8th title in tournaments of this category. However, the victory was not exactly as expected, since his rival, Jannik Sinner, retired after just 23 minutes on court due to a fever that prevented him from continuing. Even with this victory, although he does not yet occupy the world number one spot, it became clear that Alcaraz dominates the current circuit. In fact, that honor still belongs to the Italian, but the gap between them has narrowed notably. What once seemed distant and unattainable has now come closer. The Mercians' recent results have placed both players in a position where they depend solely on their performance in the upcoming US Open. For the moment, the Italian continues to lead the ATP ranking, although if the young Spaniard manages to win the title in New York, the world throne will be his. However, if it is Sinner who wins, he will remain at the top of the ranking, a position he has occupied since June 10, 2024, accumulating more than a year without being displaced. The final phase of the calendar, in Alcaraz's favor. At this moment, the Italian maintains a 1,900-point lead over Alcaraz, so the US Open looms as the decisive tournament. In Flushing Meadows, where the champion earns 2,000 points, the Mercian could increase his tally by up to 1,950, since in 2024 he only has to defend 50 after his second-round elimination to Botic van de Zandschulp. Likewise, the final phase of the calendar plays in Alcaraz's favor, as he must defend the quarterfinals in Shanghai, reach the third round in Paris-Bercy, and surpass the group stage in the ATP Finals. For his part, Sinner must revalidate titles in tournaments of maximum demand. Everything indicates that Alcaraz's return to number one in the ATP is only a matter of time. If he doesn't achieve it in New York, the Asian Tour will give him another chance to reclaim the top of the circuit.